Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Viller with the Committee of 70. We're excited to have another edition of our Studio C70 Student Candidate Interview Series. Today we have 12th graders from Mr. Charlie McGeehan's Social Sciences class at the Academy in Palumbo in Philadelphia. And we are very grateful to have Erin McClelland, the Democratic candidate for Pennsylvania State Treasurer, joining us for the next little bit to chat with our students. So I will turn it over to Mr. McGeehan, and thank you very much, Ms. McClellan, for being here. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks so much to Ms. McClelland for being here and for Justin and the Committee of 70 for helping to organize this interview. We'll start out with a few speed round questions from our students and then get into the meat of the conversation. So I am going to turn it over to Greta for our first question.
Hi, I'm Greta. First speed round question. What is your favorite animal?
Favorite animal. My dream dog is a Cavalier King Charles. That's the if I win, I'm buying myself that dog.
Hello, my name is Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Second question. What is your favorite drink?
My favorite drink. Coffee most of these days.
Me again. What's your favorite type of music?
Oh, let's see. I don't really have a favorite. It depends on the mood that I'm in. I've actually been listening to I listen to a lot of stuff from my generation, which is a lot of like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, stuff like that. That's probably my favorite.
Hi, my name is Francis, and what is your biggest strength?
My biggest strength, I would say it's my confidence. And as women, we're often discouraged from being confident. You've seen in this presidential race, they've talked a lot about, being humble. And I was raised to be very confident by two strong parents. So I embrace that. And I think it gives me a lot of strength and empowers me through this process.
Okay, thank you.
What is your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness is I believe I can do everything myself, and I'm really bad at asking for help.
Okay. Next question was, if you weren't going to be treasurer, what would you do instead?
I'm sorry, you broke up for a second there, honey. Can you repeat that?
If you weren't going to be treasurer, what would you do instead?
I do my work before this was process improvement. That's a passion of mine, is improving government systems. So I did that for Allegheny County Department of Human Services, and that's my passion, is making government work better. So I enjoyed that work, and I would go right back to it.
Next question. What is your favorite Disney movie?
My favorite Disney movie. It would have to be Cinderella.
What is your favorite book or author?
My favorite author. Let's see. That's tough. I don't know that I have a favorite, but I read a lot of nonfiction. So I like a lot of biographies. I'm a big fan of Howard Zinn and his work on history. So I don't have a favorite author, but I love to read about people that have had amazing life experiences and compelling stories. And that's what I enjoy.
Second to last question. What is your zodiac sign and how do you relate to it?
I am an Aries, and I relate to it a lot. And I'm constantly told that when people find out that I am an Aries, that I am a classic Irish Aries, and I fit into that pretty well. So I hear that all the time.
Last speed round question.
Huh?
If you had to work as a goon for a fictional villain, which villain would you choose?
Oh, wow. Darth Vader.
Okay.
Darth Vader's the best.
Okay, so here's one of our general questions. My name is Kimura, and the question we have is, we have read that you worked in substance abuse and mental health counseling as a project manager and also as a small business owner. Can you explain to us which of your prior jobs provided you the best learning experience to take on the role of treasurer?
Yeah, that would be the year that I spent training under former U.S. Treasury Secretary O'Neill. I was at the Institute of Research, Education, and Training in Addiction, and we were working with the Pittsburgh Regional Healthcare Initiative on process improvement in large healthcare systems. And he had just left the Treasury at the time. So in conjunction with the work that we were doing, he had a lot to say. He was actually working on a book with Ron Suskind about his experience in the Treasury. And it wasn't the most flattering depiction, but he was very open and very critical about that experience. And just listening to him talk about that was an unbelievable influence on me as he was going through that process, being able to share his experience there and how he envisioned the Treasury as an opportunity versus just a job as, you know, a sort of a bookkeeper and an economist. He saw immense opportunity in the idea of following the money. And that inspired the rest of his career. He actually, by following the money in our US Treasury, he decided to start addressing medical error and hospital-acquired infection because they were the greatest cost growth contributor in Medicare and Medicaid. So he taught me to look at money and see what's in between the lines and see the breadth, depth, and density of what's behind those dollars and what it tells us about how our government is functioning. So he was the greatest influence.
Okay, thank you.
Our next general question would be, if elected, what would be your main priorities as treasurer?
Well, my first priority is there's COVID back pay that is owed to the workers in that office. The Treasury got money from the Biden administration for COVID relief for the workers, and they never got that money. So we want to make sure that they get paid their back pay. I think that's appropriate. And then first and foremost, we're going to dive into auditing the teacher's pension. That was under Department of Justice investigation. I disagree with the current treasurer's investment of that fund into the Saudi Arabian stock exchange and some other foreign investments that she's made that I'm concerned about. So I'd like an audit of it. And then third would be cybersecurity. You know, we have cyber attacks all over the state. The municipal water authority of Aliquippa was hacked by Iran not too long ago. And we've seen ransomware attacks and phishing schemes that have lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for the state of Pennsylvania. And the National Association of State Treasurers has been very clear that the treasurer needs to lead this at the state level. Because right now, it's not really clear who's supposed to take that on, who's responsible for it. And they have said, no, this should definitely be the state treasurer. So I look forward to creating the first ever municipal cyber protection program for all of our 2,559 municipalities, our schools, and our authorities throughout the state of Pennsylvania as treasurer.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thanks.
Final of our general questions. What do you think is a flaw your opponent struggles with, but you exceed in?
I am delighted to talk about the policy in the office, and that's something that she has repeatedly refused to do. We've had 2 debate invitations. She's declined. We had interviews with the Philadelphia Inquirer. She declined. I've asked a number of questions about policy in the office, and she hasn't answered a single one. So I love talking about the policy in the office and the opportunities within it. And I'm happy to accept criticism if somebody disagrees with me and engage in the civil discourse. That is my favorite part about this process, is having the unbelievable conversations that we have. And I met with a group based in Philadelphia on public banking last night, and it was a wonderful conversation. And, you know, everybody had different opinions, but there's no reason we couldn't have some really unbelievable civil discourse about how that might look moving forward. And I would say that's my greatest strength and her greatest weakness.
Thank you. Now we're going to turn to specific issues. What are your thoughts on unclaimed property and how Treasurer Garrity has managed it? It doesn't seem like it's much of a priority for you. Why is that?
Oh, it's a priority. Here's the thing about unclaimed property. So you're actually incentivized to hold on to it because the state earns interest on it. And we've actually had a lawsuit that says that the state doesn't have to pay people the interest that they've accrued on that property when they hold it. It is a priority, but my priority is not to let it sit there and then during election season, suddenly like worry about giving large amounts to municipalities or schools that's been sitting there because it looks really good on a press release. My goal would be to reduce the cycle time from the time we get that property to the time we return it. So instead of saying, oh, well, this month we returned this much property. Well, yeah, that's your job. And by the way, you should have been doing it all 4 years. I want to say in the time that I was in office 4 years from now, we reduced the amount of time from the moment we get an unclaimed property to the moment we return it to 0. That's the ultimate goal. And right now, we don't talk in that office about how long we hold on to this property. And then we strategically give back the ones that are convenient, the ones that are the highest dollar value, because it looks good on a press release. But my concern is when I get a piece of unclaimed property, no matter how much money it is, I don't care if it's $7 or $70,000, I should treat all of those people the same and get them their resources back to them as soon as possible. So I look at it as a process of valuing everybody, not just the high dollar ones that look good on a press release. And my goal is to be able to say, this is how much time it takes right now to return a piece of property. And I want to continually see that decrease to the point where the minute we get it, we find out who it belongs to and we return it that day.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is
Hi.
Kayla.
Hi, Kayla.
My question is, what is your stance and views on the Keystone Saves retirement plan? How does it differ from Verity's approach?
Well, Garrity is a supporter of the Keystone Saves program, and I am not. And there's a number of reasons that I don't support it. First of all, it is a product that was created by Bank of New York Mellon. And if you look at Maryland Saves and some of the other programs, Bank of New York Mellon will be the fund manager, not the state. They will actually hold the investment and control it. It is using a self-directed IRA. And there is a 4-page fraud alert put out by the Securities and Exchange Commission saying that those products are highly susceptible to fraud. They are self-directed, which means that the person putting money in is in charge of where it goes. Well, that's not a really good idea for frontline workers like bartenders and baristas who aren't trained on how to invest money. There's better options. Third, it is not regulated by the federal government. So we have the ERISA oversight, which monitors pensions, and there's requirements there. This program is not subject to those regulations at all. It's a free-for-all. Third, it would be mandated on every small business in the state that does not have a retirement program, but yet it does not permit the employers to put money into it. Now, as a Democrat, I believe a retirement program should have the option for the employer to put money in. This program bans that. So I've talked to a number of business owners that said, well, I'd be happy to, enroll in that and have my employees in it. But at the end of the year, if I've turned a profit, I'd like to be able to share that with my employees. And why should we restrict that opportunity? Finally, the program requires each employer to disclose the identifying information of all of their workers to the Treasury. The Treasury would have to give that information to a Wall Street bank. That should not happen. We should not be requiring our small businesses to give name, birth date, address, and social security number to a Wall Street bank. And there's arguments that that is illegal. So there are much better products like 401ks that I think are a better option. There's better ways to manage them. There's programs that have ERISA oversight and protections. I just think there's a lot wrong with this program, and I find it very alarming. And in the Oregon Saves program, the data shows on average, people have saved about $700. So it has not addressed the savings crisis that everybody has theorized it would.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Ivan, and my question was that a lot of Philadelphians use SEPTA as their main transportation, right? And then a lot of new problems are appearing every single day about like the detours of the bus and mishaps that happen like for like Broad Street line or like Market Frankfurt line. So if you were elected as treasurer, how could you support SEPTA with their problems?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm running for a statewide, and that's a local government issue, so I have no power there. But I have been an unbelievable supporter of public transportation here in Allegheny County, where I live. And the first endorsement I got in this race was the Amalgamated Transit Union, and that's a statewide union that covers transportation unions all across the state because of my support for it. Basically, what you're using is a statewide office as advocacy for the importance of creating more and better and more efficient state transportation. And that includes advocating for dedicated funding, but that's up to the legislature to do. I can't control that as treasurer, but I'm definitely an advocate for it in economic development and working with local governments. And I know that, especially in a lot of other rural areas and areas outside of our bigger cities, we've seen transportation routes cut immensely, and it has seriously affected people's ability to attain financial independence if they can't get to a job. I mean, sometimes they can't even get to a grocery store with the cost of transportation. So I believe, especially as a single mother, that we need to make sure that there is access to all of those basic needs, and public transportation is an essential part of that. So that's something I would be a very loud voice on. From a policy perspective, there's not a lot I can do to affect it, but I can definitely advocate for it.
Thank you.
Hi, next question we have is, we have noticed major issues with the unequal way our schools are funded, such as teacher salaries, teacher shortages, and kind of lack of resources and funding. What can you do as treasurer to help improve funding to our public schools?
Well, one of the things that, first of all, I do support a fair funding formula that makes sense and is equitable for schools all across the state. I live in a school district that is regarded as one of the more lower income schools in the state, yet we are right next door to another school district that is one of the wealthiest. And the disparity between the two, where they're only a couple miles apart, is unconscionable when you look at it. So I'm very empathetic to that. One of the things that is impactful in this is the role that the teacher's pension has had in school funding. And most people don't realize, but 38% of all of our schools' payroll, so the money we pay to our employees in the schools, 38% of that payroll is paying back the teacher's pension, which the legislature defunded for years. So the retirement program for our teachers was overfunded in the year 2000. So legislators they stopped paying into it the way they were supposed to. The state didn't put their money in, even though the teachers in the school districts were paying their fair share. And what happened was it got underfunded. And because the legislature doesn't want to take the tough decision of funding it properly, they put it on local government. And that is driving up local taxes across the state. And a lot of people don't understand, when their local electeds are raising taxes or having difficulty managing the budget in their schools, a huge part of that expense is the rating of the teacher's pension. So one of the things that I want to do is list the amount of money that was taken from that program with interest and list it on the pension report, so that way we can encourage people to run for state legislature and governor on the idea of returning that money. That is money that the state owes to our school districts, and I believe they should pay it back. And that's one step forward toward leveling out the damage that has been done to education funding, and there's definitely been a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is our second to last question, and the question is, how would you make retirement savings more accessible to low-income individuals who may not be able to contribute regularly to state programs?
Yeah, and that's a huge issue, is making sure, first of all, I want to protect the pension programs and retirement programs we have, because we do see an aggressive war on public sector pensions. And in areas where we've seen a lot of deindustrialization, loss of manufacturing, loss of jobs, a lot of those folks have gone into government work. So making sure that we maintain the retirement programs we have, creating awareness on maintaining Social Security the way that it currently exists, as other political entities are attacking it, is a huge issue. I think in some ways we're on defense. But on top of that, I do want to ensure that we have a viable statewide savings program that allows employers to put money in, that allows tax-free savings, similar to what we have with PA Able, which allows our disabled to save money at a far less with far less tax implications than using a regular savings account. And we need to do that for everybody throughout the state. I just don't want to do it the way the Keystone Saves program describes, because I think it's far too risky and dangerous. But I do support that, and I have designed my own program to put in place throughout the state, so we can encourage people to save. And it wouldn't just be through their employers. Anybody could enroll in that program. That's the idea, is that anybody could put savings in. We can do an automatic deduction, things like that. And that's really, really important, but it has to be done in a safe, responsible, regulated way.
Okay, thank you.
So our final question for you is, what is your position on expanding the treasurer's role in tax policy? Do you think there should be any changes that should be made to Pennsylvania's tax system?
Well, like I said, that's obviously part of the legislature's discussion, and that's a very difficult process. The biggest thing we need to do, and I will advocate for, is we do not have a standardized property tax requirement throughout the state of Pennsylvania. Every county does property tax their own way. And it's sort of a free-for-all. And we have counties that have not done reassessments on properties since the 70s. Well, if you're not reassessing and keeping those tax assessments, where the market has them, in a way that we're paying taxes appropriately and dealing with things like gentrification and underserved communities, then we're not going to be able to fund schools or roads or anything else. So I think the biggest thing we need to do in tax policy is just sort of, take the bullet on this and do the standardized tax policy for property tax across the state. So every county has to do assessment the same uniform way. That's a monstrous problem that's killing us as far as how we're funding local government.
All right, thank you.
So we want to thank you so much, Ms. McClelland, for being with us today. Can you guys give her a round of applause, please? And we just wanted to give you a chance as we close out to say, any last messages or words you have for our students or for the people watching.
No, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. And, I know this isn't the most exciting job in politics, so I appreciate you taking some time to hear about this. And I just want to remind y'all that, the younger generation is now the largest voting generation in this country. So, put a lot of thought and time into what you want your country to look like moving forward, because you can get anything you want. All you have to do is vote for it. And I encourage you to do that.
Thank you so much.
It's a great message to end on. Don't forget, Election Day is November 5th. Thank you very much, Ms. McClelland, for being here today, and we'll see you at the polls.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay.